Jody and I are big believers in having a routine. But what we really didn't know is how that routine can get so out of whack when something happens to you, like what just happened to us.
When something unexpected happens or you get thrown into a situation you don't plan for, like a trip or a change or something puts you out of your normal rhythm, suddenly you realize how dependent you are on your routine.
So we just spent 47 nights in a row in New York City in hotel rooms, 3 different hotels, because our son Markham was sick with cancer. We've done some videos on this, and those of you that follow us on social media know about this. But we were thrown into an environment we had totally not planned for. And because of that, what was normal for us and our normal routine completely was wiped out and disappeared.
Instead of feeling free, we felt disconnected, distracted, kind of like we were failing at our regular life while we were in the midst of really trying to serve, love, and care for, our oldest son as he was going through his cancer journey. So what revealed to us and what we're going to talk to you about today is how important getting back to those routines and how important a good routine is for you.
So this unplanned event for us, spending 47 nights, 3 meals a day in New York City with our entire family, with the kids, familiar routine disappeared. I mean, I made excuses about not going to the gym. I made excuses about not getting up early and doing my ritual of water and reading the Bible and journaling and meditating because I couldn't, because I slept in the hospital 20 of those nights. I was worried about the kids and getting people coffee and all of that. So what I found, though, was at the end of 47 days after Markham passed, I realized how important my routine was for me and how messed up that I was because I didn't do it for the last 47 days.
But I think what we really found out was how easy it was to retreat even further away from the healthy routines, the things that we had put in place, the things that were propelling us forward in our retirement. It was easy to just want to stay inside. It was easy just to do familiar things that felt safe. It was easy to watch our energy drop as we isolated from friends and family after this huge tragedy. And, there was a discomfort in trying to figure out how to adjust back to these routines and stay engaged to help us heal faster. While you're super dedicated to your routine, I would say I'm really dedicated, but you're super dedicated. I can be a little more flexible and still catch a workout late in the day. You have to work out in the morning. So after having been absent from all that routine, us having to figure out how to get out of the hole, how to get out of the house, how to get out of isolation, how to get out of maybe some unhealthy eating habits that we're doing. Got to tell you, I didn't realize how much I loved M&Ms until I was stuck in a hospital and there was nothing to eat but in the vending machine, and I would find a pack of M&Ms every other day or so, maybe even every day.
Nice job. One of the things I really started to stress over it, that I didn't have my routine, and I really needed to get back into it. So I couldn't do the whole thing. I just couldn't. My mind wasn't there. Markham was sick. The kids were all wondering what's happening. We were all over the place trying to meet up. So I tried a couple of new things. I would walk to the hospital and I would ask someone for directions. I would pop into a new coffee shop, and ask someone, what's it like living in a neighborhood? I would put myself in an uncomfortable situation to give me a little bit of a push to feeling alive again, because I didn't. I felt like I lost my way.
Well, I feel like, what we tried to do for those 47 days we were in New York City and out of our routine was we started to create small routines that worked within the situation we were stuck in, right? So not at first. I think 2 weeks went by and we were kind of, as my mom would say, who flung shit. We were just kind of just barely struggling to kind of keep up and stay alive and stay engaged and stay on top of logistics and top of medical care and all the things. But then slowly a routine developed kind of around us, you know, the walk to the hospital, the coffee in the morning, the coffee shops, the who stayed over, when do you get to shower? I mean, there was all sorts of nuts and bolts that had to happen. So this idea of kind of realizing you're in an uncomfortable situation, you don't have your routine to cling on to, but creating some sort of routine, if you're a routine person and that is something that grounds you, I think is important.
You know, I think part of the idea here is if, as you go through your retirement and these discovery years, as we call it, there may be times when there is a death in the family you need to deal with, or there's you need to move, you find yourself in a different environment. So we're talking today about how you can build back a routine that's really healthy for you. And one of the things that I started thinking about was lowering the bar on what it is I needed to do every day. So when I'm here in New Jersey or in Florida, I get up at 4 o'clock, I drink 12 ounces of water, I meditate, I journal, read scripture, write in my diary, and then I scoot off to the gym. That didn't happen for 15, 18, 20 days in a row, and all of a sudden I felt very uncomfortable. So I lowered the bar and I said, okay, well, why don't you just at least get up, get some water, go down to the lobby of the hotel, have coffee, and journal. That's all I did. I didn't go to the gym. I did read scripture, but I eliminated a couple of things just so I still had a little bit of a routine. I would get up at 5 o'clock and do that. And that really helped me start to get back into where I wanted to end up.
Well, I also think we kind of created different expectations for each day in terms of the categories that we focus on, you know, health and wellness, communication, relationship, spouse-partner relationship, all of those categories or pillars that we focus on. We created new expectations. We did start challenging each other because in Manhattan, as you know, you can walk. You know, we were getting 20,000 to 25,000 steps a day on most days. So instead of it being, I went to the gym, I did a fitness class or a boot camp, or I rode the bike, or I walked 10 miles, or whatever it was, we started measuring things that were measurable.
Right.
And that was important to us. So if you find yourself that you get kind of kicked off your routine, give yourself some grace, give a couple of days, try to figure something else out. But there's always something you can do. There's always something you can measure. There's always 5 or 10 minutes that you can pull back for yourself. And I say always, maybe it's not always, but most times.
By the way, there's a download below, the first link in the comments, 6 steps to jumpstart your retirement transformation. If you haven't downloaded that before, do that today. It's a great document to get you started with your retirement. So we started, you know, the next thing we did is we just started our day with a walk. I mean, I did my little stuff before that, but Jody and I would leave the hotel at the same time to go to the hospital, and we'd stop halfway to get coffee for whoever was there. If Jen slept over, or if I slept over there, you'd bring coffee for me. And that became a little bit of a different routine, and it gave us a little bit of structure around a very difficult time in our lives. And, you know, we don't wish this on anyone, but we all will find ourselves once in a while just in a bad place, and we lose our routine, but you don't want to lose it for too long. So we started to build it back, and one thing was that morning walk, which was great, and just have some other things that we could do to repeat on top of that.
Right. You know, we would carve out time for not just a cup of coffee. If one of us stayed over in the hotel, we would have that cup of coffee with Markham in his room. And then when someone else would come, we would excuse ourselves for 5, 10, 15 minutes, 30 minutes if it was available. And if there was enough coverage going in and out, to make sure we were still connecting as part of our routine. You know, how are you doing? You know, where are you today? How much energy do you have? Where can I help you? And I think that helped build back some normalcy in our day.
Yeah, the other thing that we did, this was kind of fascinating. We were staying in a couple different hotels, but we were between Park Avenue, 61st Street, 69th Street, and York, where the hospital was. So that's a just a quadrant, and we explored that area. I mean, we had Madison. What are some other fun streets? Lexington,
first,
Madison.
second, third.
Yeah, it was kind of fun. We found good places to eat. So instead of comparing it to our home, we just compared it to itself. We felt like members of the community. We became friends with the wash and fold guy, the coffee shops, the lunch places. We shared our story about Markham, which became a new routine for us. And the amazing thing was we met so many amazing human beings that gave us back kindness, gratitude, joy, and love that we weren't getting because we were in a whole new place.
And I think, we were in dire straits. We were losing our oldest son, and he was losing his battle with cancer. So we were in dire straits. And yet at the same time, we recognized that some of the things we were doing, some of the habits that we were pulling back into our world were unhealthy for us at this stage of life. That the walks were healthy, the communication was healthy, drinking water over the 9 cups of coffee you need to have to stay awake in a hospital all day long.
Right.
And, eating out of vending machines, which to me became an M&M obsession. We stopped comparing it to home, started living it as our life, and made the transition in our head to gravitate towards the healthier side and the healthier habits.
So we did a pretty good job of recreating a new routine that served us well when we're in the city for 47 days. And now that we're back home and we're grieving the loss of our son, and we're trying to find a way back to our previous routine, but it also is never going to be the same because we have this hangover of losing Markham and, trying to find a new normal. And it's not that easy. Sure, I can get up at 4 o'clock and I can do those little check boxes, but he's gone now. So we're trying to figure out, how do we honor him? How do we bring him into our daily routine to always remember him with joy? So here's a couple questions our team put together. The video was 8 things that are a complete waste of your money from Roy Lewis. Here's his question. At our age, we all have friends and relatives that age and pass away. How do you decide which service to go to? Travel, motels, closeness to the person or family. You can't go to them all. You probably have a good story on this from your mom. Your mom would say the most important thing you can do to show kindness. I'm stealing your words.
No, she said, my mom would say, showing up for people at their biggest time of joy, marriage, birth of a baby, or their biggest loss, death of someone in their family, is really important to you. And it really is important to the character and the preciousness of your relationship with that person. So, Roy, I would say, if you can go to as many as you can go to and show up for people who have lost somebody, I tell my kids, and Mark and I, we show up.
Yeah.
Just show up.
Push the limit. So you can't go to all of them. You just can't. But it really, you have to think about who these people are, what they mean to you, what the person who passed away meant to you. And we know this because we have a lot of people asking us questions. When is Markham service? When is Markham service? And we don't know yet. But there's this desire to show up and pay your respects for the love of the people who are still alive.
Right.
Okay. Here's a question from Entropy Q41. Define retire. Are you too truly retired if you still have Retirement Transformed and still put time into this YouTube production? Or are you semi-retired? Is retirement zero work? Easier work but different? Pivot to a new but busy career? So I fully believe that everybody has a calling bigger than what they know it is. And for me, my calling right now is this: to help people make the transition into retirement, because my father failed at it, we failed at it, and we don't want that for us. We don't want it for you. We don't want it for our kids. So what is your calling? What is something that you could do? Volunteering 1 day a week. It's going to give you purpose, because when you leave your career, whether you liked your job or not, you had that purpose. And if you just enter retirement and don't have any structure, any plans, any way in which to give back, you're going to start to drift. And we see it time and time again. My dad drifted and he died way before he needed to in his retirement.
That's great.
Got nothing?
Nope.
All right, another question. This is the video, 4 Habits You Need to Break Right Now If You're Retired, from the Ridgeway Report. I'm starting a podcast about retirement. Are you all available for interviews?
Sure.
Yeah.
Give us a call.
That's an easy question.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to leave a comment back below, the Ridgeway Report, we're happy to come on and be your guest. It'd be fun to tell our story about what we're doing. Okay. If this video resonated with you, watch this next one. 12 recognizable habits that ruin your retirement, even if you didn't know it. So watch this video next.